to 4 weeks. All right. In this next topic, we're going to talk about the 4 different ways that you can afford a Tesla. A little bit of a PSA because I see this a lot, right? We talk about Teslas being more expensive. They are higher MSRPs, which then equal higher MSRP payments. But if you compare it to other vehicles out there, notably volume vehicles like a Honda Accord hybrid, then it could essentially be a very close monthly payment. So we'll talk about all the different numbers on from that. And of course, if you compare it to like a BMW 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class, you're definitely going to generate a lower monthly cost or even 5-year cost lower than that. So a little bit of a PSA on the 4 different ways that you can afford a Tesla. And so we'll go through it line by line by line. So the first one, if we'll talk about it, but I guess before we get into this, my name is Dennis. I love talking about Tesla hacking, as I like to call it, but basically just getting the best deal on a Tesla at the best financing rate. So definitely hit that subscribe if you're interested. And today's video is actually sponsored by my Patreon link down below in the description if you want to support the channel and get access to the best Tesla buying guide out there with all the low interest rates on credit from credit unions, some even as low as 2.99 to 3.7%. So definitely check it out. Link down below in the description. All right, so let's get into this. So the first one is gas savings. Of course, this is an easy thing to comprehend because electricity is cheaper than gasoline costs. I mean, I just looked at the average cost of a kilowatt rate. It's like 10 cents. And the average cost of gasoline across the country is 3.6 a gallon. So we'll talk about the different numbers and how that actually makes sense. The number 2 thing is maintenance savings. So of course, electric vehicles have a lot less maintenance than gas cars. You don't need oil changes, transmission changes, fluid changes, brake changes, a lot less. And so there's a lot of different things on where that could save you a lot of different money. But I actually looked up at Edmunds for the maintenance cost of a Model 3, and for some reason they put maintenance and repairs at a total of almost $5,000, which I don't think that's completely correct. I mean, maybe that's a lot of tires. That's like 2 or 3 set of tires, but I don't see where a lot of this could actually play into effect because maintenance is a lot less than this. Maybe they're talking of some sort of fluid change, but even repairs, I could see, I mean, I really don't see how this one plays into effect either because it's really low maintenance on any EV, Tesla included, for the first 5 years, unless they're thinking something catastrophic, like something goes really wrong with the battery. But even then, the battery has a 10-year warranty on top of that. So I really don't see how that can come into play. Number 3 is time savings. So of course, people always think about how much a charger or an EV charger or an electric vehicle charger can take 3, 4, 6 hours, but they don't really start to understand that most of that's charging at home. So it's even more efficient than that. So really, you don't have to spend that 10 to 15 minutes at a gas station filling up. You just go home, charge overnight, and then you wake up the next day and you are ready to go. The other time savings facts that go into this is less maintenance. You don't have to go to shops to drop off your vehicle and get oil changes, brake changes, fluid changes, and all that stuff. So that's a lot of time that you could be saving on a yearly basis. And then the other thing is intuitive technology. Because of how easy the technology is to use and how they're constantly making updates for the Tesla system, you're going to find that the Tesla has a lot of different things that can predict what you want to do and help you save a lot of time with your drives. And then the last thing, I always try and pitch this a lot, is Tesla Autopilot. I really feel like once you get used to the Tesla Autopilot system that comes free with every single Tesla that you buy new, with the vehicle staying in the lane for you, accelerating and braking, you can essentially get 30 to 50, maybe even 70% of your time back, where you can sit back, relax, let your Tesla drive you to your destination, as long as you trust it, and as long as it's not in any sketchy situations with traffic and things like that. But road trips where you're driving 3 to 4 hours, an open highway, you can literally sit back, relax, and let your vehicle drive to you. Number 4 is, of course, state incentives. On top of the $7,500 federal tax rate that you can get when you buy a Model Y and a Model 3 Performance. Of course, Model 3 standard range is a $3,750, tax credit on that, not as much as the $7,500. There's also state incentives on top of that. Of course, New Jersey just had one that's starting to phase away. Oregon is also starting to phase away. But California, it's anywhere from $2,000 to $7,500 that you can get back in a form of an actual check that you can pretty much get in full if you qualify as an individual. And then number 5 is kind of like a bonus one, but it's all depreciation of Tesla vehicles. Tesla vehicles don't depreciate as much as other vehicles. vehicles, but I kind of left that as a number 5 and not one of the core 4, because this video is going to be titled 4 ways that you can afford a Tesla, because depreciation is kind of a little bit of an unknown, and also these past couple of years have really messed up what depreciation looks like. And on top of that, with all these price drops that Tesla is doing recently with the Model 3 and Model Y, depreciation will also get really skewed at the end of the day. But this is what we're going to compare. So I took a Honda Accord hybrid, a sport hybrid that is their cheapest hybrid that starts at basically $32,000. And of course, we'll compare it to the Model 3 standard range, which is a $39,990 with a $3,750 tax credit. And so this is really where I got this inspiration from. So according to Car Dealership Guide, the average monthly payment for a new vehicle hit an all-time high of $730 in Q1 of 2023. So shout out to Car Dealership Guy for posting this. It's from Edmunds.com. And so if we start to take a look at it, if we start to factor in what an estimated monthly payment, all things being equal, right? And when I say all things being equal, if we got the Model 3, which we would get at MSRP, but the thing with a Honda Accord Sport Hybrid, you might not necessarily get it at MSRP. I mean, some places you might get a slight discount. Most places you'll probably pay some sort of markup, but we'll just keep it at MSRP to Tesla Model 3 MSRP. And so we're going to factor in state taxes and fees and all dealership DMV fees and all that stuff at about 10% for both vehicles. And these are the actual monthly payments. So of course, we'll start at the Honda Accord. We just took in an estimated out the door of 35 and some change, a monthly term of 72 months at 4.24, which you can actually get very easily through a credit union Patreon link down below the description. And that gets you to a monthly payment of $552 a month. Switching to the Model 3 standard range side, same deal here. I put $3,750 down as a down payment because that is the amounts of the tax credit that most people will actually get back in full for the tax credit. And this is why I say most people. Of course, if you don't know how the tax credit works, it's actually a reduction of your tax liability. And so for $7,500 for the Model Y, you have to make my rule of thumb is anywhere between $75,000 W-2 income, because you can see right here on the screen, we've got $75,000 single earner W-2 income. Your federal liability taxes is $9,381. But the Model 3 standard range only has a $3,750 tax liability reduction. So pretty much I feel like you can go as low as, okay, so about $50,000 to earn a tax liability of $4,241 before any sort of deductions like 401k and anything like that. So if you make $50,000 in W-2 single earner income, your tax liability is $4,241, give or take. And the Model 3 standard range with a $3,750 tax liability reduction, you would get that full thing back in full when you file for your taxes next year from that. So that's why in this math calculator, I used a down payment of $3,750, because you're basically going to get that in full if you buy with a $50,000 income, which I really wouldn't recommend anything less than that. I mean, the rule of thumb, at least for bank approvals, is 1-to-1. And of course, if you were to ask, maybe Dave Ramsey's, he would say 10-to-1 in terms of income. You would have to make like $400,000 versus the price of the vehicle at $43,000. But this would earn a monthly payment of $633 a month for a Model 3 standard range. So of course, on the surface level, that is a lot higher than a Honda Accord hybrids at $552 a month. But there's more to unpack here, right? We talked about the 4 different ways. We talked about gas. We're going to talk about gas savings, maintenance savings, time savings. Of course, we're not going to factor in time savings. That's kind of just an added benefit or bonus into that. But we'll just look at numbers specifically. And of course, state incentives on top of that. We won't factor in depreciation because there's not really a way to factor that in accurately, in my opinion. But here is the chart of all the different things. So you can see right here on the Honda Accord side, we've got the MSRP of $31,895. We got the monthly payment that we generated just a second ago at $552. We got yearly gas costs. I put in 14,000 miles because I really feel like that's probably what it's at right now. Gas price of 3.66, which is the average price across the country now. Of course, if you're in California or other states, then of course that's going to be a little bit higher. And then the average kilowatt rate of a home electric costs or things like that is at 0.1042 10 cents a kilowatt. And so of course we've got all these numbers down here. The next variable on top of that is insurance. I would say Tesla insurance, or insuring your Tesla, is going to cost anywhere from 10 to 20% more than your normal insurance. So I put $100 a month for a Honda Accord and $125 a month for a Model 3 standard range. I elevated it just a little bit. So yearly cost for a Model 3 on Accord versus Model 3 at $1,500 for yearly cost. Maintenance I left blank. I actually took the number straight from Edmunds, because Edmunds actually predicts that a 2022 or a Honda Accord hybrid has maintenance repair costs of over $5,000 for a full 5 years. And of course the Model 3 for the first 5 years is around right under like $5,000 as well. But I think it's a lot lower than that for a Tesla Model 3. I mean, we've owned 4 Teslas so far, and I've spent literally zero on maintenance besides air filters, which are like $20 on Amazon. But we'll just go with it. We'll just stick with whatever Edmunds has to say right here with the 5-year cost on that. So you can see I've got a handful of things actually plugged into here. On top of that, we've got charger install, because you got to buy a charger, you got to install it. And so probably the average cost of that is going to be around $1,500. There's a lot of places where the state will kick in a little bit of money as well, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. So that could offset a little bit, but we won't factor that in at all. So you can see right here, the 5-year comparison between the Honda Accord, which Tesla Model 3, I mean, some would argue it's a luxury car. I would say it's basically the same quality as a Honda Accord, but of course the technology is much better. You can see the total 5-year cost is about a $3,000 difference, or actually the difference over the course of 5 years is $3,000, a little bit over $3,200. But the monthly difference is about $53 a month. And so that's where some of these other factors could essentially come into play and help you basically justify the different costs of that, the time savings of all that stuff, because I've already factored in the charger install into it. So a monthly difference of $52 versus a Tesla Model 3 with autopilot, with charging at home and not going to gas station, and less maintenance or time spent at maintenance, you could really effectively see how that could actually be very close to an equal valuation between both a Honda Accord hybrid and a Model 3 standard range. And that's probably why a lot of people are choosing to buy a Model Y and Model 3 over some of the other competition out there. But the one thing I left out of here is state incentives, right? So of course, if you're in a place like California, that can give you an easily CVRP, a California rebate of $2,000. There's some states that have more than that, some states that even have less than that. But once you factor in a $2,000 CVRP rebate, you can see down here, the monthly difference is $19.64 a month. So now it's basically 1-to-1 in terms of how much you're going to be paying each month from that. Of course, we're not factoring in any sort of depreciation in here. And actually, ROG, that's the one thing I didn't necessarily factor in for tires, because yes, tires, you will be driving a lot more in terms of acceleration, but there still are ways to, I guess, chill on that. Like I've learned to chill with the acceleration. So tires could actually be about the same as a Honda Accord, especially if you went we're talking about daily driver 19-inch rims for a Tesla Model 3. And so you could effectively try and go with a staggered method and things non-staggered square method to really get the life of that extended. And that's where depreciation comes into play. I tried to quickly see what types of values like a 2018, like a 5-year-old Model 3 would be versus like a 5-year-old Honda Accord, but there's really not a lot you can piece from this. And so really this is a number that it depends on how you're feeling. This is a little bit of the gamble part, but you can see 1-to-1, both vehicles are going to cost you about the same at the end of the day for a full 5 years, or not essentially the same, but a $20 a month difference for a Model 3. And that's where the technology, the autopilot, and charging at home and all the time savings could essentially factor that in to make you a $20 more or make it a lot more even. And there's also ways, maybe you could be Turoing, we've done in the past. You could be Ubering to get some extra money. I mean, I feel like there's a pretty easy way to make another $20 off of getting a Tesla, $20 a month, not $20 a week or $20 a day or anything like that. That's $20 a month at the end of the day. So This is just my quick video, my quick PSA on the 4 to 5 ways that you can afford a Tesla. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Let me know if you have any questions down below in the comment section or even the live stream. We're going to jump into the live stream comments. But before we do that, this video is actually sponsored by my Patreon link and Tenet. Tenet allows you to get a lower monthly payment on your financing because they allow you to defer a portion of that monthly loan all the way to the end, maybe even that $7,500 federal tax rate or that $3,750 tax rate, and that allows you to get a lower monthly payment. And this is good for people that want more cash flow on a month-to-month basis. I'm talking Uber drivers, business owners, and things like that. So there is a strategy to use Tenet to defer that portion off, get a low monthly payment, get the tax credit next year, pay off Tenet, and then maybe potentially refinance the whole thing. So shout out to Tenet for sponsoring this video and a portion of the videos this month. And thank you to Tenet. And check out Tenet down below in the description if you want to check them out. But we're going to jump into the live stream comments. But before we do that, this video is also sponsored by my Patreon link. Down below the description is the Patreon link if you want to support the channel and get access to the best Tesla buying guide out there with links to all the best credit unions as low as 2.9 and 3.7% lower than Tesla financing. So definitely check it out. Link down below in the description.